Exasperated, the podcast where we've chosen to renew best-selling books from both sides of the political spectrum, so you don't have to, and tell you how at times they've got the right idea, but mostly how they're missing the point of why everything kinda sucks. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Joseph's grinding teeth. In this next episode, we're going to be reviewing Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again, by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. Described by Penguin Random House as a book that, quote, takes us behind closed doors and into private conversations between the heaviest of hitters, revealing how big the problem was and how many people knew about it.
So, let's see how this keeps us perpetually exasperated, and why you should be as well.
When we started this series, I was worried we'd have trouble finding comparably bad writing on the left, so I guess we owe a hearty thank you to Mr. Tapper.
Barf, puke, fart. Thanks. Yeah, sure. I would like it noted, for the record, that I'm going to use that word as loosely and sardonically as possible, because this was not a fun book to read, and look, it is perfect for us, though, because it definitely left me pretty exasperated.
Yeah, I think if I still identified as a liberal, this would have radicalized me, honestly. Given the ridiculously sedate attitude of liberal pundits and the effectiveness with which the media sphere on the left has entirely buried all of this information.
Look, in hindsight, it's truly astounding, isn't it? Later on, we can get into the weeds of our own more personal and, sure, maybe less scripted views of the election. I remember during the time thinking about how unbelievably odd the vibe of the entire 2024 election was. And now, I believe we were gaslighted on a national stage. We were told from the start, back in the end of 2022, no, everything is fine. Biden is fine. We've got this. For so many years. And meanwhile, stuff is leaking. We're seeing stuff on the news where we're looking at Joe and going, hey, bud, you good over there? And then all of a sudden, we're told a few days later, after a super disastrous moment, more on that later, they go, oh, hey, so, by the way, Biden cannot do this, but it's fine. We've got Harris, and everybody is totally fine with this. Everybody's fine with this. And the rest of us are going, oh, okay, but is it? This is moving a little bit fast, y'all. And, well, the rest is history.
Yeah. I mean, granted, this isn't exactly new. There was plenty of evidence, at least anecdotally, of Reagan's deterioration in office, and Trump isn't exactly what I'd call coherent.
Coherent no, we're not even close to being there.
But it was just striking to me how similar to the Republicans the Democratic machine was in this case. Like, lie to the public, use presidential power to protect one's personal interest, attack and ostracize dissent, and never, ever back down.
Yeah, if you wanted any further proof of the existence of
the Mono Party,
I'd point you to this right here. Hell, this isn't even restricted to the presidency. Jake Tapper quoted Nick Haley in this book, who said, quote, "The Senate is the most privileged nursing home in the country. You have to know when to leave," unquote. And she's not wrong. Remember Weekend at Feinstein's? Remember Diane being basically a goddamn vegetable? The senior senator of California, for most of her last term, was not a person. She was more of a concept of a person. And she basically functioned through her staff to varying and very questionable degrees of assistance. Or, hell, earlier, Senator Robert Byrd of West Virginia, who served for over 51 and a half years. Holy shit! And even now, Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, our favorite turtle man, who's had how many strokes on camera? 3? Maybe? From what I remember? How the fuck do we keep electing these old people to power? Not just the presidency, but the Senate, probably the House as well. This is ridiculous. What are we doing here?
Yeah, how old was Strom Thurmond?
He
died and or left the Senate. I think he died while in office.
I think he was in like his mid-90s going on 100.
Yeah, I think he was approaching 100.
And Robert Byrd died at like just over 100.
Yep. I mean, part of this, at least, is the slow fermentation of both parties into what is more or less a gerontocratic cult of personality over the last 5 decades. Like, this is what happens. When you invest into a single person and their whims, they'll eventually let their ego get the better of them and stop listening.
Yep, and Jake Tapper, gonna give him credit here, said just that in the conclusion by quoting Archibald Cox in the wake of Watergate, not too long ago, huh? Quote, "We should be reminded of the corrupt influence of great power, especially when the power is in the hands of someone who is willing to resort to any tactics, however wrong, to retain and increase his power. Perhaps it is inescapable that modern government vests extraordinary power in the president and puts around him a large circle of men and women whose personal status and satisfaction depends entirely upon pleasing that one man." Unquote. Now, the wrinkle here, pun very intended, I have words, I need to use these words, is that it's not really clear exactly how much of this whole fucking disaster was Biden, how much of it was his advisors, how much of it was the Democratic Party as a whole. Joe Biden, as Jake Tapper was wont to repeat time and time again, had a mantra of getting back up when knocked down. And it is quite the motivating phrase. But did he actually, like, truly and honestly believe that he was ready to run? Maybe. But why were his advisors so gung-ho about it? The quote-unquote Politburo of 3+ people who were just convinced beyond any shadow of a doubt, despite the evidence right in front of them, nah, this guy's got this. He can do it. Or, hell, Joe Biden, who, by the way, was very obviously labeled as a ringleader of sorts in this conspiracy, quote-unquote, to get Biden reelected. Why was she so invested in this? And look, I get that there's the 2020 election to consider, but there's more to that. I'm assuming in part in relation to, like, Hunter, which is its own Shakespearean tragedy at a frankly gross level, there's a sort of us versus the world mentality that also went into it. And that had a couple of very obviously bad implications as well. And then there's the Democratic Party machine. They saw the same polls we did. They saw the same discourse we did. They saw more than we did. Where were they? Why did they take so long to stop it? They saw so much more evidence than us. They simply must have. Look, I don't fully buy the narrative in Jake's book that they just didn't know until it's too late. It feels way too much like they're covering their asses here. And I'm flabbergasted. I'm so friggin' animated about this, but it's so frustrating. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what I enjoyed, quote unquote, about this book, is that I feel like it definitely correctly depicted the Democratic Party as just another face of the monoparty. Like, what the authors refer to as the Politburo is essentially the groundwork for what we have now, which is a country mostly run by executive order and then moderated by court injunctions with a loud but completely ineffectual Congress.
Yep. And it pretty neatly lays out for us how little input we, the individual voters, have until we get to a point of it being almost too late. Go back to 2016 and the Democratic primaries and the campaign of Bernie Sanders. No, I'm still not over that. And I'm not going to be over that until the man gets what he deserves. The actual presidency. Lead us to victory, comrade. But look, you don't even have to go that far back. Look at 2020. Same candidate, same result. When the establishment machine wants their candidate, they're going to impose said candidate. And there's also something else that just drives me insane. Jake Tapper, in his conclusion, writes as a sort of, here's what we gotta do, guys. Quote, "So, what do we as a country do to ensure that this will never happen again? Congress should legally require the president's physician to certify to Congress that the commander-in-chief is physically and cognitively fit to serve. Currently, the yearly letter from the president's doctor is basically a tradition, Reiner says, adding that some White House physicians have provided very detailed presidential health summaries for the public, while others, such as those in the first Trump administration, provide very little granular detail. As of now, Reiner notes, the information released to the public is only the data that the White House permits to be made public. But a law could require the president's doctor to provide a fulsome report, potentially at the penalty of perjury. Without that enshrined into law, no president can be counted on to be fully open, unquote. Okay, look, I'm not opposed in principle to this, far from it, but remember how I was talking earlier about how our Senate is also part of the wider gerontocracy? What about that? They should submit to similar medical evaluations, at minimum, and have fail-safe procedures to ensure that we're not being run by, let's be honest, a bunch of old folks who regularly have strokes, go comatose, forget basic facts on a regular basis because their collective grasp on reality is slowly eroding. And question, you think they're going to vote for that?
No.
No! Of course they're not going to do that. Why would they do that? So what can we as voters do? Jake gives us no answers. Thanks for that, Tapper. Appreciate it, bud. Fuck you, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know if the writers chose the term Politburo because it's, like, communisty and scaremongering.
Oh, absolutely.
The tone of this book felt super reminiscent of some of the stuff we've read on the right. Maybe because the content is a little similar as well.
It is a very good catch. We as a society still have a bunch of Cold War era trigger words, to use a liberal phrase, that still cause us to lose our collective minds. For instance, I'm going to trigger you. Are you ready?
Yes.
Buckle up, comrade. Socialism.
Ah!
Communism.
Ah!
Marxism.
No!
All of those naturally come to mind, and Politburo, that's about as Soviet a term as it gets. That is quintessential Soviet. Normally, I'd like to think it was an unintentional inclusion, but come on, guys. Come on. And, you know, it makes it seem kind of othery, doesn't it? That it was un-American, maybe? And yet this is such an American thing to do nowadays. As we've already shown, we have a small group of absurdly powerful people, and, you know, I believe the proper term for them here is oligarchy. They run things in the background. This is nothing new. Why are we calling this out as a Politburo? Why can't we call out other administrations in the past as Politburos? This seems a little too convenient, in my opinion.
Yeah, what's hardest for me to swallow about all of this is the timing. Like, would they have even written or published this book if Biden had won?
Very good question. Frankly, I'm leaning no. And that's because the motivation for writing this whole book, that vanishes with a victory. Be it by Harris or especially by Biden. Jake Tapper noted that, quote, victory has 100 fathers and defeat is an orphan. So goes an old saying President John F. Kennedy invoked after the Bay of Pigs fiasco. Few Democrats were running around claiming paternity of the political wipeout that was the 2024 campaign. No one thought that the Harris campaign had been without error. But for the most knowledgeable Democratic officials and donors, and for top members of the Harris campaign, there was no question about the father of this election calamity. It was Joe Biden, unquote. And there's also a saying in sports, winning cures all ills. Had they won, even by the skin of their teeth, all of this wouldn't have mattered. Because why would you point fingers at folk that helped you win to varying degrees? Why would you make yourself look bad in the buildup to an improbable victory at the end of an improbable scenario that this whole stupid fucking election ended up becoming? I think there was no reason to write this book except to put a face, in this case an old, kindly, but vacant and withered face, to whom was to blame for this utter disaster. And they're not going to blame themselves. They're not going to blame the system. They're not going to blame the polls. They're not even going to blame the American people. They're going to blame one guy, a scapegoat, Joe Biden.
Yeah, and I mean, not to participate in exactly the same blame game, and it's obviously not just him, but I blame the party apparatus a lot less than I blame the Jake Tappers of the world. The party's job is to win, and although they went about that extremely poorly, it's at least their job to win.
Yeah.
The media's job is to give us information that we need to make decisions. Where was all of this in 2023 and 2024?
Yeah, you're correct. That's the official job of the media, to actually report on this stuff. But let's be real here. The unofficial job of the media nowadays is, from my viewpoint, caveat, to make money.
Very true.
To get viewers hooked onto their 24/7 coverage of literally anything that's interesting. And let's also be real here. They have their own political interests.
As do their billionaire owners.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't it the CNN executive who said a couple years ago that for ratings, Donald Trump was probably the best thing to happen to CNN? Because of the amount of content that man produces. Not daily, not hourly, minutes. Minute by minute, that man is doing something that's getting everybody's attention and rustling all their jimmies and just making us go, oh, fuck, what did he do now? Look, say what you will about him as a person, a politician, a president, his very existence, he's a hell of an entertainer.
True.
He is anything but boring, and by God, he generates content like a machine. So naturally, the media loves him. And our current societal environment loves content generation. We thrive right now on content generation. Who is the best content generator as a single solitary person? Donald J. Trump, 45th and 47th President of the United States. Oh, God.
Is it coming up? Oh, God!
Oh, it hurts to say that still.
Yeah.
But look, I agree. Where were they? I don't remember that much about the election. I tried to block out a lot of it because
Me too.
it's frankly a little traumatizing. But I did find it a little odd that so many journalists and so many Democratic Party officials just kind of accepted all of this. Didn't dig too deeply. But then again, according to Jake, take it with a grain of salt. This is Jake we're talking about, but let's roll with him on this one. Those that did were labeled as working for Trump to get Biden to lose the election, sometimes directly from the White House and with a lot of passion. And in fairness, I remember that sentiment from a lot of Democratic voters I talked to, that any and all critique of Joe Biden could only help Trump. And if you didn't want Trump back in the White House, you had to shut all the fuck up and get back in line. And that didn't stop at Biden. We saw that with the Harris campaign as well. Any and all critique of Harris, no. Shut the fuck up. Get in line. It's kind of reminiscent of Blue MAGA.
Oh, no.
But it is!
You're right. No, you're completely right. And honestly, all of this feels less like real reporting and more like face-saving for both the party and the media to distance themselves from the disastrous 2024 results.
And you know what hurts me the most? Get a load of this from Jake Tapper. Quote, Trump ended up winning the Electoral College by 312 to 216 electoral votes, and he secured the popular vote by more than 2.2 million. But the race was closer than those numbers suggest. Harris lost the three key blue wall states by a total of roughly 230,000 votes. If she had beat the margins of 1.44% in Michigan, 1.73% in Pennsylvania, and 0.87% in Wisconsin, she would be the president today, unquote. It was a disaster, and yet, just like with 2016, it was close. Had they run a candidate who didn't belong in retirement, or a candidate who, for varying reasons, was actually popular, a candidate who maybe could have had a primary, someone who actually could speak to the people, give credence to their, dare I say it, exasperation. This was a winnable election, even with Harris. And I had so many problems with Harris, but even with Harris, they had this, and they fucking blew it. It is breathtakingly exasperating.
Could you maybe describe it as perpetually exasperating?
Ah!
I remember voting for Joe in 2020 and being like, well, I mean, he's not a vitriolic racist, so that's cool.
I voted for, I'm pretty sure it was Gloria something or other of the Peace and Freedom Party because I am in California.
Yeah, and you can afford to do whatever you want.
Yeah, because California is about as blue as it gets right now. And so, even though I was in the realm of, oh God, this is the only realistic option, isn't it? Oh, fuck. Well, you know what? I could still stick with my principles and be like, well, fuck you, Democratic Party. I wanted Bernie, and you took him away from me again. So, while I do hope that Biden wins, I'm not gonna be enthusiastic about it. I'm gonna vote for third party because fuck you, and I can get away with it. Now, if I were in one of the battleground states, oh, that would have been a much tougher choice to make. But that goes back to
The Mono Party.
where we're only left with, how is the best case scenario, Joe Biden?
Well, and I think the sad thing is, honestly, is that the best case scenario, either in 2020 or 2024, was not fucking Joe Biden.
It really wasn't.
It's just that Trump managed to scare the living shit out of the establishment and make them fall back on their worst inclinations, which is elect an old man who's won before because he knows how to win.
Yeah, that was a lot of the logic behind Biden's, I'm not going to call it a Politburo anymore. I'm not fucking going with that anymore.
Inner circle.
The inner circle, the conspiracy.
Yes.
Whatever. Let's just call it the Biden conspiracy.
Oh God, that sounds very Trumpy, but we'll go with it.
It does sound very Trumpy. I get
Let's
that.
call it the Biden crime family.
Oh, Christ.
The Crichton-Bime family.
But it does kind of fit the definition of a conspiracy
yes,
here.
I mean, it's very much a small group of powerful people working together to bring about something that, if it were known by a larger group, would be disapproved of. You're 100% correct that this was a conspiracy.
Yeah.
I'm just laughing about the fact that this is playing right into the hands of he who shall not be named.
But I'm going to name him anyway, Trump. But Trump is wrong about so many fucking things.
True.
He's wrong about most things.
But he was not wrong about Sleepy Joe.
No, he wasn't.
Really upsetting to me.
Oh my God, it is so upsetting. I never, ever, ever want to give that man credit for anything in my life because I have so many thoughts about him. But he was right. Joe Biden was a terrible candidate. And the only reason that they selected him, they being the inner circle and the party apparatus, was because Joe Biden, despite our very real concerns, still won. And he did win. We're not going into that. He did, in fact, win in 2020, which still surprised a couple of people.
Yeah, which it shouldn't have, in the sense that it should have been very, very clear that a Democrat was going to win any election in a year where everybody had just been locked inside for months. Like, saying that the election was stolen from you after... Now, granted, this wasn't Trump's fault. He didn't make COVID, and it was the responsible decision to make everybody go into lockdown. More would have died if we hadn't. But if you think that you lost an election because it was stolen from you after that, you just forgot what humans are like.
Yo, this, up until COVID, you could have argued that, especially if Biden were the candidate, it was Trump's to win because he was not an inspiring figure. And it boggles my mind about Clyburn and the black vote being such a decisive factor in all of this. But also, I guess that's just the party apparatus seeing just numbers and charts rather than, I don't know, having a little bit of nuance about this and delving into, well, why did Trump win in the first place?
Yeah.
Because we're going to go into another thing that I am extremely loath to admit. Trump was right that the establishment is the problem.
Yeah, if only he weren't basically a little patron of the establishment.
Of course he is, but man, he is such a great performer, and he's such a great orator in that regard. Oh my God, I need to throw up again.
No, it's true. I mean, it's a very specific kind of oration, but he is a very talented presenter, and people that have worked with him have said that one of his major abilities is to work a crowd. He is P.T. Barnum.
He is P.T. Barnum, and you know what's also funny is that at the time of the 2024 election, and we're just going to keep bouncing back and forth between these two because they're so interconnected.
Yes,
But-
they're basically two parts of the same election.
Yeah, just like two parts of the same coin of the fucking monoparty. But anyway, Trump wasn't exactly that coherent in 2024 as well, right?
No, not at all.
Weren't there a lot of media stories about how Trump was kind of boring?
Yes, that he just wasn't the same kind of fun and splashy that he was in 2016.
He wasn't. Yes, it's true. But then you had to go back to Biden.
Yeah, who
And-
would like slowly shuffle across the stage and just gape at stuff. Poor Joe.
I'm sorry to bring up this trauma again, but do you remember the pause?
Yeah.
Trump was incoherent, but he never did anything like that.
No.
Like, his freewheeling was word salad, but at least it wasn't reading from the prompts of the teleprompter.
Yeah, and with Trump, as much as his word salad is frustrating, he has been word salading since before he was arguably dropping into dementia. Like, his entire political character was based on talking in a way that allowed people who were listening to him to fill in whatever he was saying with their own prejudices and being super vague if you actually read the words that he was saying outside of the tone that he says them in. So part of the difficulty is just that his pre-decay communication style is so reminiscent of somebody who has dementia already.
Yeah, and then you have to contrast this with Biden, where Bidenisms were brought up a lot.
Yes.
Biden was a gaffe machine.
But he was a gaffe machine in the inappropriate way. Like, he would say, like, what did he say about Obama? That he was, like, the first...
Oh, he was, like, one of the first, like, well-spoken.
Yeah, just something that was like, Joseph, do not say that.
By the way,
you are a white man.
I am so triggered whenever you say that.
Well,
Because
I didn't want to say Joe, because that
I
felt
know.
too friendly. But, like,
I know. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.
I forgot he's the second Joseph Robinette Biden.
But regardless, no, you're right in that the Bidenisms were different from these moments, let's call them, that were initially characterized as Bidenisms.
Yeah, that was convenient for them, but the problem was that they weren't Bidenisms.
They weren't. They were very clearly, for a lot of people, signs of, oh, this man's not here right now. You can't even leave a message. The mailbox is full.
Yeah, and, like, also for younger voters, even for us, like, we're not young, but
Yeah.
we were for most of Joe Biden's visibility. We don't have an idea of Joe Biden except for as an old vice president, and then as an even older president. There's no, like, way for us to look back and be like, oh, it's kind of like old Joe. We don't know old Joe. We just know old man Joe and older man Joe.
Yeah, my first recollection of Joe Biden was back during 2008.
Yeah, at which point he was already not, like, gaffe prone, but he would kind of figured out how not to say most of the very offensive stuff. And he wasn't making those kinds of obvious flubs that could have been confused with what he was going through now, which is just direct lapse in memory.
Yeah, and it's also, like, for me personally, on a personal level, it was very sad to see.
Yes.
Because I've seen my father decay in real time. And that was an awful, awful experience.
Yeah,
and
he wasn't president.
And yeah, he wasn't even president. He was just some guy.
And yeah, it was very sad to watch.
It was horrifying to watch. And I'm going to bring this up as well. The reason that we didn't have as many quotes this time around for Original Sin was not just because I didn't want to, but also because this was the audiobook version. And this was the audiobook version narrated by Jake Tapper himself. By the way, quick aside, Jake Tapper referring to himself in the third person was super,
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he? That was so funny.
it was super fucking weird. Super weird, super cringe. But it wasn't as cringe as having him recreate those moments.
Yes, his Joe Biden voice is a little rough.
Is
the best way to put that.
Rough is the most charitable way to put it.
That's what I was going for.
and especially recreating that fucking debate.
Yes. Yeah, the entire book, like, yes, this book probably did need to be written in some form, in the sense that it was going to be addressed, regardless of whether or not anybody on the Democratic side did this. The fact that there was a cover-up happening actively during Joe Biden's presidency was going to be talked about.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it was, I guess, Jake Tapper instead of, I don't know, Jesse Waters.
Yeah, sure, fine.
But
fine.
It is so pulpy. It is so, like, soap opera, Desperate Housewives-y style drama.
It's like Veep meets the worst parts of the West Wing, meets House of Cards, meets any schlocky political show condensed into a book and passed off as something that Bob Woodward or what the hell is his face? The guy who wrote Fire and Fury, Michael Wolff, I think that was his name. It was
Michael Wolff.
Yeah, there we go. It read as something that was more cashing in than it was actual substantive reporting, and it made me extremely uncomfortable through the whole thing.
Well, to connect to the monoparty theme, I think one of the things that was most notable to me about this was how similar the tone was to the books we've been reading on the right, and how all of this kind of is emblematic of what I call Donald Trump's reality TV show presidency. This all just feels like watching shitty 2010 TLC era, Hoarders, Pawn Stars style reality TV.
And is that partly because we as a society have collectively and unconsciously kind of realized how kind of theatrical and pointless that a lot of this is?
Yes, politics. I mean, I think we're noticing more in the media era how performative politics in general has always been, but it's a profit driver, right? Like, in the 90s, a whole bunch of wealthy media executives colluded to make TV that looked real that wasn't real, to sell to people the notion that things like, what was that unbelievably popular show about toddlers and tiaras?
Oh, God.
So that was an unbelievably popular show. And to most people's minds, it was at least mostly real. They were taking real, young pageant competitors and putting them... But it wasn't fucking real. Those shows have producers. They have script writers. There are script writers for The fucking Bachelor.
Yeah.
Like, it's all just created by writers, but we've been trained to believe that things written in this style are reality.
Yeah.
And so eventually, we were able to train Americans to vote for somebody who acts like that because they think that that is what reality looks like now.
Yeah, and it leaves us looking more for, like, entertainment more than actual fucking substance on much of anything.
We have learned to pay attention to the things that make us angriest.
Yes, because it's tapping into And again, going to go back to the thing that Donald Trump was right about, which was that things aren't great right now.
Yes, that's the one thing he's constantly correct about, is that, yes, shit is fucked up.
Yeah, and we had that in the Democratic Party with Bernie Sanders. We had him say, hey, y'all, this is kind of fucked up, isn't it?
And we were like, nah, it's not that bad, Bernie.
Yeah,
he was like, okay, fine, I guess.
Fine, I guess, but no, things are really fucking fucked up right now, guys, and we should fucking do something about it. Hey, look at all those billionaires, the billionaire class, that are making our lives hard. What if we decided we were angry at them, and people responded to that? People were responding to that in 2016, and they responded to that in 2020, and where was that in 2024? And here's another thing that just completely blows my mind in 2024. Who was it that ran against Joe Biden?
Oh, God. Technically Donald Trump?
No. He was a Democrat.
Oh.
He was mentioned
you mean
in
in the primaries?
Yeah, he was mentioned in the book.
RFK?
Another guy.
Who am I thinking? Who am I forgetting?
Dean Phillips.
Oh, right.
Nobody remembers this guy.
You're right about that. I didn't remember.
And he was mentioned in the book.
Yeah. Just
he was the only guy who decided, you know what? I think it was around 2022. You know what? This sucks. I'm going to run against Joe Biden, and the establishment shut him the fuck down.
Of course it did.
And he wasn't even that radical of a guy. I don't remember a single goddamn thing about his policies, but I'm pretty sure that it was the usual milquetoast neo-lib stuff.
What if we taxed rich people?
Yeah.
Like, just a little.
Yeah.
But his point was to try and highlight, hey, guys, why aren't we having a primary right now? Where was Gretchen Whitmer? Where was Gavin Newsom?
Where was Pete Buttigieg? Where was J.B. Pritzker? There were so many options.
Where was Josh Shapiro? Where was Andy Beshear? Where was literally anybody who could have stepped up and been able to adequately challenge Joe Biden for the nomination for President of the United States? So we have to update the thing in the beginning where, how is the best case Joe Biden to how is the best case Kamala Harris?
Which it wasn't. And the reality is that, like, part of what weakened her campaign so much, besides having to campaign only for a month and a half just at the end of the race, which I'm sure didn't help, was not having a primary process. Like, the primary process isn't arbitrary. It exists partly to choose a candidate, but also to refine the platform.
Yeah, it not only refines the platform, it allows you time to articulate said platform,
test communication methods,
and give the voters a chance to express what they actually wanted. Now, if we had a primary and Joe Biden won that primary anyway, sincere doubt. But
if he had, then he honestly probably would have done better in the fucking election.
Yes, because again, the margins for Kamala losing are in the single digits next to the point percentage in the 3 blue wall states. And it goes back even further. Maybe you could have the original sin being Kamala Harris becoming Joe Biden's running mate in 2020. In the book, I didn't know this part, so this part was revelatory. I'll give you that, Jake. Fuck you anyway. But apparently, in the process of choosing the running mate, the question was between Kamala Harris and Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. And essentially, Clyburn, according to Jake, was noting that you want to win this election, you got to select a black person, and it would help selecting a black woman. Playing the demographics game.
And that has never worked for Democrats.
Yeah, it goes back to what's her face from the 80s, the first woman vice president on a national ticket, Shapiro, I think her name was.
I think you're right about that.
Geraldine Shapiro. This was before my time, so I am allowed to forget her name on this one. But, like...
Geraldine Ferraro.
Ferrara. There we go. Yes. She was a demographic choice. Didn't pan out. And honestly, it doesn't ultimately matter. What it was that, like, choosing Kamala Harris after that debate in the primaries of 2020, when Kamala very rightly pointed out that Joe Biden was working with fucking segregationists.
Yep.
Back in, what, the 70s?
Yep.
And neither side forgot that.
Yeah.
So that was a poison pill all on its own. But even if we were able to say, you know what, we're going to bury the hatchet because, remember, winning cures all ills. They won in 2020 anyway. Fine. Whatever. Water under the bridge, hatchet thoroughly buried 6 feet under, give or take. We are going to make this work. And Biden is going to be, as he promised, a bridge. A one-term president. I remember that promise.
Oh, we all remember that promise.
Yes.
I guess Joe didn't.
But it wasn't even forgetting that promise. What did Kamala do as vice president?
I mean, I don't know, honestly, other than probably fight with a very uncooperative Senate.
She fought with an uncooperative Senate, being like the tiebreaker vote in a lot of legislation. She was tasked with managing the border. Good fucking luck with that, by the way.
Yeah, that's kind of a poison pill in itself. Be like, hey, manage this thing that no Americans can agree on how to handle.
No Americans can truly agree on how to handle the border. And we also, let's be honest with ourselves, as a society as a whole, we're not really cool with the border. Democrats and Republicans, we trend towards having super tough border policy, which that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But aside from that, she didn't really do much of anything. And it's unclear how much of that was deliberate mismanagement by Biden, how much of that was deliberate ducking of responsibility by Harris, how much of that was just pure ignorance on the Democratic Party establishment, which you would think the moment they won in 2020 would be thinking about, okay, what do we do about 2024?
Yeah, that's kind of what we all thought. It's like, oh, wow, we dodged a bullet there. I'll bet the party establishment knows that and will handle it.
They will handle it. They will take care of it.
Nope.
They got this. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and eventually Hakeem Jeffries. We got this, guys.
In hindsight, that was a bit foolish to leave it to them.
And yet, by 2022, we were going, hey, so Joe's not running, right? We didn't know he was going to be running then. We were thinking, okay, so is Kamala gonna run? Because I don't know, man. I still remember 2020. That wasn't a great campaign that she had there. Aside from that segregationist busing thing that she had, that was a good moment. I will give her that. She hasn't really endeared herself to the voters all that much. She managed to be even more unpopular with them than Joe Biden.
Well, because for all of her, like, she is a very, very centrist leftist. And in many...
If not center right.
Exactly. Like, in the way that she treats criminal justice, she would have been very popular with, like, 1980s Republicans.
Very much so. Absolutely. We just kind of tried to collectively forget that. And it didn't really work. But then, regardless of that, okay, so we're assuming Joe Biden is going to keep his promise and not going to run again. And look, let's be real here. Is Kamala going to win a primary? I don't know, man.
Not against the existing field of options.
Okay.
Like, maybe if it was just her and Joe, sure. Like, if
Maybe.
it was just those two, I'll bet she could have wiped the floor with him in a debate. But if it was her, Buttigieg, Pritzker, Whitmer, they would have crushed her.
They would have, but also let's think about this a little bit more. We're remembering Buttigieg's campaign in 2020, right?
Oh, yeah.
He didn't do that great of a job.
That's true.
Like, look, don't get me wrong. He was very articulate, still remains very articulate, and he's a gay guy, so that would help with that demographic. Maybe, but and he's a Midwesterner as well.
That would help.
That would have helped.
More so than him being gay and from the Midwest.
But again, his track record up until that point after 2020 was Secretary of Transportation.
That's true.
So he didn't really have a whole lot of runway to establish himself as an actual guy.
Yeah, at least Kamala had like some history of working in elected office at the federal level.
So, like, okay, Buttigieg, not really that great of an option. Who else? Gavin Newsom.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, Gavin.
Yeah. Listen, we are Californians, and we have so many fucking gripes with Gavin Newsom, and we are somehow managing to find more. Somehow. It's quite impressive, actually, that we find new reasons to hate our governor.
Every time he opens his mouth, but
His super charismatic mouth, but still.
he would have been a decent competitor.
Except he's Californian.
That's true.
He is a white, slicked back hair, Silicon Valley area, Bay Area.
He is very much a coastal elite kind of guy.
He is the coastal elite.
That is very true.
And do you know how much the rest of the country hates the coastal elite?
I mean, as a person who would be labeled as a member of the coastal elite by most Midwesterners, I hate them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So, okay, he's off the table. Okay, fine. We got Gretchen Whitmer, I guess. She might have been a better option. She probably could have potentially won this election against Trump, but she didn't seem all that interested in running. Neither did Newsom, for that matter. Neither did Pritzker, for that matter.
That's true.
Neither did Buttigieg, for that matter. Bashir, the guy in Kentucky who could actually speak to voters who are in a, let's be real here, a really red, ruby state. I'll probably have a couple of gripes with Bashir here and there. The man can get elected.
Yes, that is true.
He didn't run. Nobody ran. Nobody except the guy we forgot, Dean Phillips.
Yeah.
What is he even doing now? Did he even win his House district race? I don't fucking know. And I don't even probably fucking care at the end of the day, because he didn't stand for anything except this one voice in the wilderness saying, maybe we should have a primary, guys. I think Marianne Williamson also briefly ran in 2024.
Yeah.
And nobody gave a shit about her. We barely gave a shit about her back in 2020.
Yeah. And I mean, granted, in 2024, nobody gave a shit about anybody except for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden had the power of the White House and the Democratic media machine behind him all saying, no, it's going to be Joe.
Yes.
It's going to be Joe. And then Joe was like, I have Alzheimer's and I'm 80.
And also, wasn't he later diagnosed with some kind of cancer?
Correct. He has now also been diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah,
Which,
like stage 4 or something like that, which is a really,
if I got to be honest,
really bad stage.
as much as I'm very, very upset that Donald Trump is now president, and I'm very, very upset with what Donald Trump is doing with the presidency, if I imagine what American politics would look like right now, if Kamala Harris, or not if Joe Biden had run and won, and then 2 or 3 months in had been diagnosed with a certainly fatal cancer, and had been continuing to exhibit escalating evidence of cognitive decline. I mean, if you want a civil war, that's where you get one.
This wasn't going to be good either way.
No. It's like if he had tried to abdicate and probably honestly do what they're going to try to do anyway, which is put an unelected government into office by having the person who was elected leave for trumped up reasons. Like, at least it's the party that is doing more damage that's going to lose all the power. It's like, there was no good option in this last election, and we didn't know that.
We didn't know that, and yet, at the same time...
We kind of did.
We kind of did. Subconsciously, we all kind of agreed with one another that this is kind of fucked, isn't it?
But see, that's the fucking problem. And as much as I'm angry at Joe Biden, I'm angry at the political establishment, what I'm actually fucking angry at is the Jake Tappers of the world.
Yeah.
Because part of the reason that this election was so shite is because they played into the hands of two old men, both born before the invention of fucking credit cards.
Oh my God.
Because it's allowing them to continue to fight the good fight against internet media. That's it. We just paid for them to have a really, really, really profitable year talking about shit that was going to hurt us all because we were all terrified.
Oh, God.
Like, but I think that's what drove me most nuts about this book, was somebody who is deeply entrenched in arguably the institution most responsible for where we are right now, yelling for 7 hours, pointing the finger at a man who is old enough to be his father.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, Joe Biden probably shouldn't have been president at all. He didn't, like, the fact that he ran in 2020 was because the Democratic Party couldn't field a reasonable candidate, not because he was the best option.
Aside from Bernie Sanders.
Yes, aside from Bernie Sanders. Well, and I say couldn't field a reasonable candidate, and what I mean is that they couldn't get their shit together and actually support a candidate that probably would have won. But we're not going to go there.
We're not going to go there, fine. Yeah,
if we're bitching about gerontocracy, Bernie Sanders is like 82.
And you are right about that, and we have to address that. The fact that Bernie Sanders was our best bet in both 2016 and 2020, and probably was in 2024, he's older than both Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
Now, granted, he has the demeanor of a man who will live to be 130. But
but nonetheless, the point still stands that our best bet at least trying to enact some kind of systemic change to what is very clearly a gentocracy is the most gentocratic. That's I don't know. The oldest guy in the field that could have reasonably won, that was our guy.
Well, exactly, but this is what I mean, is like, we had the 2024 election, and as you said, we all felt subconsciously, this shit is fucked and it's not okay. And what pisses me off is that wasn't what our fucking media was telling us. They were telling, no, it's just a good race, there's two guys and they're just gonna try to be president. No, your job as the media is to surface all of this information about how Joe Biden is falling apart, about how Donald Trump is an obviously racist con man, and telling us, yes, the feeling that we have subconsciously that this is not okay is correct. This is not okay. This is not normal, and we need to fix this, but they didn't do that because it wasn't profitable.
No.
Because people didn't want to hear shit is fucked. People wanted to hear, maybe one of these men will fix it.
Shit is fucked, but shit will be more fucked if that guy wins.
Exactly. Or like, honestly, shit is going to be fucked regardless of who wins because we fucked shit up over the course of like 50 years. It's not going to be fixed in one election.
And we couldn't fathom for the life of us a third option.
No, and why possibly could the American public have been handicapped about thinking about a third option? Could it be because the largest purveyors of information in our space were like, no, there's only two options. There can't be a third one.
There's only two options, and they're both the same side, the different sides of the same fucking coin.
Yeah, one desperately old man trying to pull the world back into a history that does not actually exist.
And maybe one of the most fucked up things about all of this is that I look at both of these old men. I look at all of these old men and women who are in charge of our governmental system, be it executive, legislature, or judicial. So many old people. And throughout it all, there's only one person that I feel sorry for. And that's Joe Biden.
Yes.
I don't feel sorry for Donald Trump. Fuck that guy.
No, because he wants this. And more importantly, he's profiting to the tune of billions off of it, so...
And I don't feel sorry for Nancy Pelosi.
No.
I don't feel sorry for Chuck Schumer. I don't feel sorry for Chuck Grassley. I don't feel sorry for Dianne Feinstein. I don't feel sorry for all of these old people who are occupying positions of power. The only one that I felt an ounce of sympathy for was Joe Biden, because I feel like had Bo lived,
Yes, he would have been fucking president, and it would have been fine.
it would, like, look,
That was clearly the plan.
that was the plan, and then it went off kilter, and we couldn't readjust because aside from Joe Biden in the Democratic Party, who else is there?
Well, this pulls us back to the monoparty cult of personality shit. This is what happens when you base your politics on a person, when you invest all of the money and time and advertising into building the legend of a person, not building a party platform that anybody can espouse.
Yeah, at the time of recording, June 30th in the year of our Lord 2025. Recently, there was a primary. Are those legal still? A primary.
Not for long.
A primary in the city of New York where, oh my God, Zoran Mamdani
Yes!
won. He fucking,
Yes!
He fucking
Finally.
won. He won.
And it is scaring the ever-loving shit out of every Republican. It is so beautiful.
And it is also scaring the ever-loving shit out of a lot of establishment Democrats too, ain't it?
Yep. They're like, oh my God, a democratic socialist Muslim is going to be in government? You mean we don't just have to be Joe to win?
And the guy campaigned on a platform of affordable busing,
Affordable busing, rent freezes. Oh yeah.
childcare,
Yeah, it's...
taxing billionaires. What the fuck?
Well, it looks like Bernie has some competition.
And Bernie is going, this guy gets it.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine Bernie's like, thank God.
Actually, I did see a interview of him with Chris Hayes where he was going, yeah, this guy gets
Of course
it.
he was.
This guy fucking gets it.
Because Bernie knows what his actual position at this point is, because he's not going to be able to be president. He's
No!
a man in his, like, early to mid-80s.
He's
But he
like
knows
83 or
that he's
84.
the only person that has any ounce of credibility in the socialist space anymore. So if he points and goes, that guy gets it, that guy gets it.
Yeah.
Same with AOC. Yes, AOC is young, but she's managed to build a fuck ton of credibility with the movement, partially by campaigning with Bernie and just being like, this 80-year-old Jewish man likes me. So there's got to be a reason. And people are like, actually, yeah, we like him, so we like you.
Yeah. And also, what's interesting about Mamdani is that in his interview with Jan Psaki, he noted that he went into the boroughs where exit polls showed that there was a pretty substantial shift of people who voted for Trump, but at the same time voted for AOC.
Yes.
And he went there to talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
to figure
Talk
out,
to them, walk the streets.
wow,
Brilliant campaign.
and figure out why. Why did you vote for a man to become president who you knew was a terrible fucking idea, and at the same time vote for a woman who was as close as it got so far to having policies that would actually benefit the voters and not the donors? Why? And if I recall correctly, a lot of the responses were, we don't trust Kamala Harris.
Yep.
Now, I've talked with some folk about this being America isn't ready for a woman president. America isn't ready for another black president. And there are some sections of the population where, sure, yes, that is valid. But This is less about, in my personal opinion, Harris's demographics and more about her policies
Yes.
and who she was as a person.
Yes.
This is a prosecutor. This is someone who is tough on crime. This is someone who has gone after her own demographic for drug laws and punishing them for said drug laws
Yes.
in very draconian ways. This is someone who doesn't strike me as principled. Now, this is Rich coming from a, full disclosure, straight white man. But these voters who expressed this to Mamdani told him in response, well, what can I do to bring you back into the fold? Is essentially listen to us.
Yep.
Listen to
Be
what
my representative.
listen
That's it.
to what we want. And what we want is an America that is affordable. We want to be able to afford to have children. We want an America where we can afford to go to school. We can afford to have one job.
Yep.
We can afford health care. We can afford to pay our taxes. We can afford to live in New York City. We can afford to exist with a comfortable lifestyle. Not rich, just comfortable. And he listened, and he won.
Yep. Of
Now-
course he did, because that's how that works.
Now, we also have to add caveats. And I've heard this from other people who were looking at the race a little bit more closely. Mamdani also didn't do very well with the people making under 50K. So there's more work to be done there. Also, caveat, this is a primary. This is not the
Yes.
general election. We still got a ways to go.
Yes, and what is it, like less than 10% of an electorate generally votes in a primary?
Give or
even
take.
Just for the party? Yeah.
Give or take, especially when you're getting to a level of mayoral
Yes.
races. So, we also have to contend with the fact that Mamdani is going to be running, I think, against Cuomo again. Like, it sounds like Cuomo is going to go as an independent or some fucking shit like that.
Of course he is.
And Eric Adams is also going to be campaigning against Mamdani.
Yes.
Like, saving us from Mamdani,
Yeah.
who, by the way, we've mentioned this, is very Muslim
Yes.
and unabashedly democratic socialist. The dude can speak Urdu, which is really fucking cool, by the way.
He is a brilliant campaigner. He's just one of the few high-profile campaigners that we've seen recently that isn't campaigning exclusively to white people.
No.
That's it. That's all that's scaring people about him. Is that he's like, yeah, I actually believe that all of the demographics in America are important.
Yeah.
And people are like, whoa,
And
whoa.
and he didn't really go into the culture war stuff.
Nope.
He just focused on the economic issues. You know, the things that are really affecting us right now. And again, we're going to go back to what we said, I think, in episode 1. Please like and subscribe. Where, yes, culture war issues are indeed very important. We have to protect our minorities against all kinds of abuse.
Yes.
But where do they stem from? They stem from, in my personal opinion, inequality.
Yep.
Where
That's
do-
correct.
Where does that inequality come from? Economic issues.
Mm-hmm.
How do you address the economic issues of inequality?
I don't think we're allowed to say.
Fuck it. Tax the billionaires into space.
There it is.
They want to go to space so bad with their dick fucking rockets. Fuck it. Tax them into space.
What is it that Bill Clinton? I think it was Bill Clinton. It's the economy, stupid.
Yes, that was Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And yes, it is the economy, stupid. Specifically, it is an economic system that benefits only the small minority of billionaires and millionaire hanger-ons and the wealthy oligarchs that are basically the servants to the billionaires.
Yep.
watch us get defunded for this. But
Defunded?
We'd
We'd have to have money for that to happen.
that is also true. Please give us money. But but the point is that we still have a long way to go, and we have to actually get to where we're going. Please, inshallah, we actually fucking get to where we're going. But if we actually get there, maybe we on the left should take a good, long, hard look at people like Mamdani
Yes.
and figure out what is it that makes him so successful in what he's doing so far. And inshallah, it continues.
Yeah.
And should he win, maybe we have a beacon of hope in this really, really, really dark time. And maybe we might have a template to wrest control of our country back from these ghouls, from these people who are stealing from us and who are gaslighting us into thinking we only have two choices between two old, usually white, usually men. No, we have more choices. Maybe, just maybe, we can listen to the brown person who isn't even making a big deal about his brownness. What he's making a big deal out of is the terrible economic reality that is facing us right now. And we listen to him, maybe we can actually find ourselves in a situation where America is not great again, but is, in fact, great.
Wouldn't that be nice?
So let's stop listening to the old white men, okay? Let's stop listening to the old white women as well. And insofar as you're going to listen to this white guy is telling you, after you listen to me, this is the one thing I'm going to tell you definitively, and you need to listen to this one thing. Listen to the brown people. Listen to the minorities. Listen to the disadvantaged. Stop listening to me and stop listening to my demographic. Listen to those who are in trouble, who are hurting, and who need help.
Because that is who they come for first.
Yes, and after they come for them, who are they coming after?
You.
Yes. So take this away, if nothing else. Listen to the people who are hurting the most. They are going to be the ones who are going to save us all. God willing.
And now for the section we like to call our denouement. So, first question, who is this book for?
The audience best primed for this book are the ones who are looking for essentially gossip rags and post-campaign tell-alls. Alternatively, for those who are so angry at Joe Biden and the Democrats for running Joe Biden in the campaign in the first place, who are seeking some form of catharsis and wanting an answer as to why this all happened in the first place. That being said, I don't think there will be an answer that'll satisfy anybody. Certainly not in this.
Second question, who wrote this book?
Jake Tapper, who wrote The Outpost, an untold story of American valor, and 2 novels, The Hellfire Club and The Devil May Dance. This is partially and probably why this reads more like a novel than anything else.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He is also, very important, the lead anchor and chief Washington correspondent for CNN. You might have heard of them.
Oh, yeah.
Alex Thompson, meanwhile, is a national political correspondent for Axios and a CNN contributor. There's that name again.
Mm-hmm.
He won the White House Correspondents Association Award for overall excellence in White House coverage for his reporting on Joe Biden in 2024. Insert the party here. Before that, he created Politico's West Wing Playbook newsletter and worked at the New York Times and Vice News.
So, third question, why was this book written?
Cha-ching. To cash in.
Money.
Jake Tapper, let it be noted, for the record, has been advertising this book. as have his colleagues on CNN. This is all marked as a piece of journalism, especially in that advertisement, but I'm simply not convinced. It is expose-esque and really, really gross.
This might be redundant, but last question. Should you read this book?
Honestly, no. This wasn't worth it. I didn't learn much that I didn't already know. And recounting, especially via audiobook, all of Biden's addled statements, sentences, and moments, along with recounting Hunter's struggles, and just the overall vibe of it, it left me feeling uncomfortable and, frankly, kind of depressed. If you absolutely must find some kind of catharsis, I guess, get this book through the library or some other free means. Don't buy this book and give money to Jake Tapper. It truly isn't worth it, y'all. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Perpetually Exasperated. If today's conversation got you thinking a little bit deeper and a little more exasperated about everything, we want to hear from you. Give us a like, leave a review, share the show. Please send your feedback, thoughts, or questions you'd like us to answer in your comments.
Next time, we'll be reading and talking about Defectors, The Rise of Latino Far-Right and What It Means for America by Paola Ramos, described on Penguin Random House as a, quote, exploration of how race, identity, and political trauma have influenced the rise in far-right sentiment amongst Latinos and how this group can shape American politics.
Until then, be critical, be skeptical, and remember, it's okay to be exasperated and to think outside the binary political spectrum presented to us. Stay safe, friends.